Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Jordan and today I'm here with a standalone review of this amazing book, Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. This was released in 1993, child. So it's been out, but I just now am reading this. Now this book is freaking amazing. If you watch my wrap up, if you follow me on Instagram, you already know what the drill is. Now, I love this book. Spoiler alert, I gave this 5 stars. There is nothing I would change about this book. Oh, it's amazing. So this is a book that is a mix of sci-fi and dystopian and all things amazing. So it centers around a main character named Lauren, who has what Octavia Butler has deemed as hyper empathy, or the gift or curse of sharing. And essentially it is something where if you see something, you feel it. It's like if you see someone getting cut, you literally feel the pain of it. You will cry, you will feel every sensation that they feel. The book starts off and Lauren is a pastor's daughter, and she essentially has this gift or curse really that she has to keep a secret, because in this society, people who are born with that, they label them as their parents were drug abusers, and that's how they're getting this hyper empathy. So she has learned how to mask it, where she doesn't really show that she does have sharing, where if she sees something, she will just feel it. And I mean, that is the part of the story that I just connected to so much, like so intensely. I thought that was one of the most creative ways of incorporating this into a story. But aside from that, Lauren is struggling with religion. She is losing faith and she's kind of discovering her own new religion. Her father is a Christian who is, a preacher, pastor, and all that other stuff. So she's realizing the more and more that she's reading the Bible or following things, she's starting to question things and she's not really buying it. And she's kind of forming her own religion in her head. And that's kind of how we're getting into, the basis of this book. The interesting thing about this is the society that we're in. This is set in the 2020s. So what we're currently in right now, which is interesting. But this world or the society is really one of very, like most dystopians, it's very relatable. So this is set in California, just telling you a little bit about the plot. And basically there are these fires that break out. And in addition to that, it's about these communities that, Lauren is growing up in a community where they're not well off, but they're a lot better well off than a lot of other people. But then there's just very different levels of class. Basically, if you are in a community where you actually have a house, you have a home, you are trying to protect this at all costs. Before I get too in depth into the plot and all of that, I just want to say what I appreciated most about this book is the fact that there is so many different types of characters in this book. They are people from all different races, all different class backgrounds, all different frames of thoughts, religious backgrounds, all of that. And they're all into this one setting and we're seeing their worlds collide, and you're really giving very complex and very, multi-dimensional characters. And it's just beautifully written. I've never really read something so perfect. This was an amazing society that was written on this. As far as, of course I don't want to live there, but I mean, as far as you creating the story, that's why it felt so real, because it really feels like the world that we're in today. But, I appreciated that so much, and I appreciated the suspense of this and the journey of really finding out what Lauren believes, Lauren's mindset. I put there were so many different things that I highlighted in this book and that I underlined. There's so many great quotes, which I'll try to put some on the screen so I'm not taking up too much of our time here. But one of the quotes, oh my gosh, this might seem dark to some people, but it wasn't. Okay, I'll see how you guys feel about it. But one of them was, he didn't understand that to me, pain was the evil. Death was an end to pain. And that's a crazy thing, because it's in the mindset of someone who feels immense pain and immense feelings and stuff of that nature. And yeah, that's a whole nother tangent or blurb. But let me not go down that rabbit hole there. But yeah, let's talk about the book. Let's go ahead. Some of this might contain spoilers, so I would say if you haven't read the book, I'm not going to give away anything too crazy, but if you really want this to be a crazy, enjoyable new experience, I'd probably say you can exit left on this one. But just know this was 5 stars. I loved it, and I cannot wait to read Parable of the Talents, which is the follow-up to this book, although this book can stand alone. So yes, so let's go ahead and talk to y'all who have read this. I feel like this story, Crazy Takes Off, was once all the stuff that Lauren was fearing that was going to happen to the community, like she already knew it was going to be inevitable, that they were going to come for them, and like eventually they're going to have to evacuate this community and they're going to have to flee this area. But when it happened, and you know, seeing all the death and all the lives around her, and kind of like how her story kind of really takes off from that point, that was one of the most engaging parts. And it's interesting because I would love to see this turned literally into some type of series or something. Like I wish this was turned into a series instead of Walking Dead, because this is way more interesting. But that's besides the point. But how you build those different communities, and how you kind of build a community from the ground up, and how you have to decipher between when you're going to trust people, when you're going to let people in, and what is worth that risk. Like that to me was crazy engaging. Like I was on the ride throughout. Like I was really there, and I was like, man, are they going to be able to get out? Are they going to be able to build this community to, you know, form this and have some sense of normalcy in this crazy world that's falling around them. But another part of me was like, it's so interesting how when we're in the midst of crazy, chaotic behavior in the world, and we are seeing it deteriorate and getting crazier and crazier, it's like we just, you know, our will to survive, we just kind of end up doing the day-to-day, the normal stuff just to get by to another day. But it's never really fixing or solving the root of the issue. Not like I have that you know, the solving of that issue, but it's just interesting to me to see that anytime we have these like kind of societies or these different things that is based on that, it's never really trying to solve the core of the issue. And I think that's interesting, because that's kind of how it is almost in life. But yeah, I digress. I connected to this book so intensely, like being someone who's very sensitive, who, you know, clearly her hyper empathy is to another level. Like, you know, she could see someone have a nosebleed, she gonna have a nosebleed, at least when she was younger, you know. But it's just very interesting because, like, even as a child, like, you know, I couldn't watch the news, I couldn't see anything, because it's like the level of the way it impacts you or affects you is just so intense. And it's not somewhat, but it's somewhat shameful. Like it's something that you don't really, you feel like, why am I so sensitive? Like, why can't I just, you know, why does this have to be so deep all the time? Like, you know, and I like how it's showing, you know, like, yes, this is sometimes, you know, literally paralyzes you or makes you unable to function. But at the same time, that's kind of one of the beauties of her gift, of really getting to understand people and to know people and to sense people. Like in everything, she's able to really read how people are coming from, and she's able to kind of feel that and decipher and move on from that. So I really kind of appreciated that angle that was being shown. A lot of the supporting characters, the way that Octavia was able to dive into those characters, especially those sisters later in the story who were clearly abused extremely by their father and all that other stuff, and those bonds, and seeing that background and that makeup is just very interesting. And also getting into slavery, modern slavery, which we have today, you know, like is very it was very well done. This was my favorite book from Octavia Butler that I've read, period. I say that like I've read so many. I've only read 2 other books from her. But this was crazy, like absolutely crazy. Now, this makes me understand all the stand levels of her writing. Absolutely impeccable. 5 stars once again. You just got to read it. Like, read it. Let's talk about it. What was some of your favorite parts of the book? I've talked about mine. And what were some of your most impactful moments in that book? Let's talk about it, and let me know what I should read next outside of the talents. You know, of course, always open to suggestions and all that other good jazz. But yeah, let me go ahead and get out of here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Love and light. Bye.